Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we're checking out the action-adventure title Ember Soul. I originally got a 45-minute demo of this title back at Gamescom, and I had a lengthy conversation with the developers discussing all the aspects I enjoyed and where I believe they needed to improve the title. Well, now they reached out and asked me to jump back in and show off their finished product. And that's exactly what I'm doing today. I'm going to show off plenty of gameplay, talk about the overall mechanics, the basic information, really everything you'll want to know about this game. Now there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead to a specific topic, but let's just start off with that basic information. Ember Soul is developed by Virtual Age, the same studio that gave us the absolutely fantastic first-person shooter real-time strategy title Guardians Frontline. Now if you're not familiar with that game, it's like Halo meets Starship Troopers with a whole bunch of different elements, PvP, co-op, real-time strategy, and even controllable vehicles. It was really cool, and if you haven't tried it, I still highly recommend that game. But today we're focusing on Ember Souls. This is a mature-themed action-adventure title that focuses on climbing, parkour, visceral combat, environmental puzzles, and a leveling system that allows you to unlock some magical powers. It ends up feeling like a combination between Blade and Sorcery Nomad, Asgard's Wrath 2, and the Prince of Persia, which is definitely a unique combination. It's available today on MetaQuest headsets for $24.99, and it will be releasing on Steam at a later date. It features a campaign mode that's 15 levels and roughly 7 hours long, a sandbox mode that allows you to spawn in enemies and traps, and finally a roguelite mode called the Raids for maximum replayability. There's over 20 different weapons to utilize in the game's physics-based combat system that features a dynamic gore system allowing for dismemberment and decapitations. Now people will undoubtedly compare the combat to Blade and Sorcery Nomad, which this title just doesn't go as hard as that game. However, it's still extremely satisfying. One of my favorite things is to throw a sword or a dagger and have it slice right through an enemy's head. It feels really good, especially some of the force-like abilities that you get where you could send enemies flying across the room. It feels solid. Now, another major aspect of this title is the parkour system. This is another aspect where things feel really good. Overall, it's intuitive and just feels right. There's a lot of VR titles where the learning curve is steep, and this is not one of them. Like the second you start climbing up objects and want to throw yourself from one banister to the next, it just feels right. Just swing your arms, jump, and the game goes into a nice little slow motion for you if you're like barely gonna grab on and then you just make that grip. It feels good. Like it was done really well. It takes like 2 seconds to learn. It's much easier than some other games that are clunky, like maybe Assassin's Creed Nexus. And the parkour system actually ends up working like a puzzle. You'll need to find a way to navigate to certain locations, and there'll be multiple different ways to traverse through the room. You just have to find one that works for you. You also have the assistance of some force-like powers, where you can grapple yourself across the room. And finally, this game has a narrated and fully voice-acted storyline. You'll be on a quest to Pokemon all the Ember Stones. You gotta catch them all. Basically, these are artifacts of unlimited power that have been locked away for a long time because the last time they were used, they were of course used for evil, and the power comes at the expense of souls. That's how you charge them up. So as you can imagine, yeah, they can be used in a very evil manner. Now the ancient legends say the stones corrupt whoever uses them, and just your luck, one of the stones will choose to bind to you. Now as you battle your way through the game, you'll be collecting souls and the stone will get more and more powerful. You'll then utilize those newfound powers to take back all of the stones that are being used for evil purposes. And that right there is the gist of the overall storyline without spoiling anything. And from here, I do want to explain each of the game's different modes. But first, I just want to mention a little bit of what we'll call the indie factor. Now this title is $24.99. It's not a $40, $50, or $60 game, so don't go in expecting AAA level graphics and voice acting. Instead, you're jumping into a really fun, straightforward action-adventure title. Graphically, this is similar to Blade and Sorcery Nomad, and while it shares some similar aspects from Asgard's Wrath 2, it's just not nearly as grand in scope. But I actually really enjoyed this game. They don't have you standing around watching cutscenes for 10 minutes where someone's just right in front of you talking. There aren't puzzles that are long and drawn out that kill the flow of combat. It's action-oriented, you're running around, killing lots of guys, and even when you're parkouring around, you're moving at a fast pace. So it feels good, it's just go, 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 go. You know, instant gratification. I enjoy that. And after about 6+ hours, you've gained a whole bunch of different skills and magic-like abilities, you've mowed through tons of enemies with a bunch of different weapons, and you ultimately feel like a badass. That's the overall gameplay of the campaign mode, but if you want to master your skills, you could always take a break from that, jump into the sandbox mode, have some fun just fighting random enemies, or just utilize this virtual playground to master your skills. And finally, if you're looking for something different from this game, or just want maximum replayability, you could jump into the Raids roguelite mode, which becomes available after completing level 3 of the campaign. Now, not only does the Raids unlock specialty weapons, but it also drastically changes up the gameplay. You'll jump into a dynamically generated map where the focus is on speed, agility, and your parkour ability. Yes, that did unintentionally rhyme, but basically, it's not combat focused. You're gonna go on this new generated map and you wanna blast through it, get to the exit as fast as possible, find the best parkour route, utilize your skills, climb as fast as you can. That's how it goes. So it's very different, and it does remind me a little bit more of Prince of Persia in that aspect. You're pretty much like running your way through a maze or a dungeon. So overall, for $24.99, there's plenty of value here. It's a really fun action-adventure game. Just don't go in expecting it'll blow Blade and Sorcery or Asgard's Wrath 2 out of the water. It stands on its own, it has a lot of cool features, and the overall pacing is much closer to a hack and slash. Now, there's one more really cool aspect of this game, and it's actually found in the settings. They do allow you to adjust the graphical settings, so you don't have to go out and use something like the Quest Optimizer, and you could also dial in a lot of other aspects to what ends up feeling mechanically best for you. This includes things like the artificial weight on a weapon, the amount of time dilation that gets automatically triggered, and also the ability to completely turn this off, and there's a handful of other settings available for tweaking. Now, this was definitely a nice touch because it gives you a lot more freedom. Freedom over how the game plays and the overall graphics. A game like this, the combat and the movement speed and jumping, all that, is extremely important, and it has to feel right for you. Now, they dialed it into what they think is perfect, but we know a lot of aspects of VR are subjective. So having the ability to tweak things, add more weight to the weapon, or get rid of that time dilation, stuff like that, yeah, that can completely change how the game feels for you. And I'm just happy they added this option. So hopefully I gave you guys enough information, and now you know if the title's right for you. Now, if I forgot to mention anything, you have any additional questions, drop them in the description. There's also a link to purchase this game if you want to pick it up. If you enjoyed this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing. All right, guys, I'll see you on next time.